Hi, welcome back to the revolution and welcome to Leo season. I'm sorry I'm a few days late, but we have a lot to talk about, so let's get to it. First up, we have a bunch of T-squares happening in the fixed signs. In Taurus, we'll have Uranus and the North Node and Mars. And then in Leo, we'll have the Sun. Mercury is there now. And as of August 11th, we'll have Venus as well. So it's a lot of possessiveness, a lot of intractability, and then moments where people get so critical of you that you're like, okay, I'm open to whatever. I'll go along with whatever. Sure, what should we do? And ironically, in that moment where you open up, just like they've been wanting you to, you can very easily get manipulated by someone who has been waiting for you to show that weakness, maybe. So what do? Are you intractable and rigid and possessive and stubborn? Or do you open up and get, swindled by very much the wrong people? Well, maybe there is a middle way. If we keep going and we look at the astrology here, what we'll see is that if we get in front of it, if we realize where we're being stubborn, if we know what aspects of our personality are holding us back and we get in front of it, we're going to save Uranus and North Node, which is going on right now until the conjunction is going on right now, and from now until August 11th, we're going to save those transits the hard, chaotic work of making sense of something that we can probably make sense of ourselves in a much more comfortable way instead of having to adjust to the chaotic way that Uranus will try to solve these issues. So, it does require a very high level of self-awareness to be able to say, okay, I am being really stubborn in this way, and I know it holds me back, and I just kind of let it go, and I indulge myself, but I know what she's talking about, and I really shouldn't be doing that. Those things. Just those things. It doesn't have to be everything. Nobody's perfect. But if you see a new way of doing things, if you start to replace things in your life that you know are needing to be replaced and you're really you're slacking, and in those areas you do find yourself lacking because you're just not putting in the work or the effort, if you do find new branches and new ways to experience those things and you're not bored by them or you're not avoiding them anymore and you're tackling them head on, and that's really what these blunts. If there is some sort of confrontation there that needs to happen, which is what Uranus will bring about, right? Then for you to get in front of it and have a discussion instead, and be able to neutralize or resolve things that you just know the other shoe is going to drop. You're just waiting for someone to say it or for it somehow to be found out or brought up. You already know. Those are the things that these conjunctions will be bringing up. And then the fixed squares will then, really put the screws to it. So it's important to find new ways of doing old things, because maybe the old way of doing things is really tied to something or someone toxic, and it doesn't have to be that way. So as you find these new way of doing things, new luck will then, of course, come and find you. In some respects, this has to do with areas of your life that have kind of been waiting for you to come to your senses, so the blessings could come in, but you've been you've had such a tunneled vision about this particular, it could be a group of things, it could be something, that's all related, like roommates and living together and moving and what your parents, it could be like a glut of things, but it's all stuff that now one way or another is resolved, chaotically or not. A lot is expected of you, and the highs and lows can be pretty extreme in August, but you can cut down on a lot of it by being really honest with yourself about what you know is not okay, and also being honest with yourself about what other people are wanting from you. So this is also the month where you can easily run into people who are just asking for a lot. They want everything. They somehow think that you can give them the moon, the stars, the world, and that they don't have to really do anything. It's like they come into your life and go, oh, I'm here. Aren't you just so glad? Just be so grateful that I'm gracing you with my presence, and give me everything for this, for this gracious attention that I'm giving you. And it's important for you to not succumb to, the pitfalls of the fixed signs, and wanting to, even if it's the most ridiculous of requests, not wanting to turn it down, because it says something about your level of resourcefulness, or how magnanimous you are, or how generous you are, or how wealthy you are, or how, expansive you are. So people can really play you, because if they tap into some sense of you getting to display your best self, oh, you're going to fall for it, especially in Leo season. That's often how people manipulate Leos, is by putting them in situations where they just think they're being their best selves, but actually they're being used for many purposes. Leos are used by many people for many purposes, just like a shiny something is thrown in the water, to attract a barracuda. I mean, there are just some things that will always be attracted to the bright shining light. And so, people who figure out that Leos really don't think they're ever doing anything wrong by just shining can put them in some pretty precarious situations, because it serves them and it brings some kind of benefit to them. So we all can succumb to and be, prey to that sort of behavior. You will find that people want to kind of egg you on and make you either be, center stage, and you think you're center stage, but really you're the butt of the joke. Like, it can get very cringy. It can get very weird in there somewhere. So whenever someone's like, excuse me, like hyping you like too much, I don't know. Maybe it's just my bad experiences, but there's something incredibly disingenuous about telling somebody that you know personally over and over again about their looks, because you know them, right? So to objectify them in that way, even though you know them, it speaks to this distance that's there. And it's an uncomfortable distance when you're talking about people who are supposed to be really close. Women will often experience this in like a cis straight relationship, like where a man can feel so close to you, but also can treat you and look at you and even talk about you or to you like you are this removed object. There is a strange area, some sort of no man's land there, that again, I think can be a bit exposed during this season, where you do feel a little put off by people who are kind of a little too, observant, maybe is the way to put it. Or like, when people just looking too hard. Like, I get a little uncomfortable with that. Like, if not, I have to tell my mom sometimes, too. Like, you're just looking at me a little too hard. Like, you can just, like, you cool it. Like, mashallah, just cool it. Just cool it. Because, like, I don't need, like, I get it. Because, like, me, too, obviously. Like, I love myself, too. But, like, what you're doing is a lot. Like, can we just calm down a little bit? So, one of the things that happens during these fixed squares is that there are some very real limitations that perhaps we have not been wanting to face. And they become really obvious. And we can have a truly panicked response and start to think like, oh my God, what am I going to do? The sky's falling down. What's going on? Why is this happening? But if you look at it, if you give it a little thought in a few days, once you realize what the limitation is, now you can either figure out a way around it or come up with a completely new plan and go in a completely new direction. It's when you don't know what the limitation is. As scary as it is, that moment where you figure out where the edge is, right? As scary as that moment is for Truman when the boat hits the painting that's supposed to be the sky, as terrifying as that kind of clunk of the mast of the boat against the cardboard wall is, there is relief in it. Of course, it's devastating. Of course, it's terrifying because then you really get a scope of what you're in. But that's the only way he's going to find the ladder that actually gets him out. Excuse me. So the limitation, whatever it is that becomes really obvious to you in August, where you're like, oh my God, this is the limit. Yes, but only so you can be redirected to another way to get out of whatever it is you're trying to get out of. It's not, this is the limit, period, end of sentence, end of the world, end of no, it's just, this is not the way. This is the way to the way, maybe, or this, whatever it is, but this is not where it ends. So, yes, your limitations can become obvious, but to take that as, something that causes panic as opposed to something that inspires this kind of ingenuity and this creativity within you, that's your choice, right? So you'll have that choice to make. Some of us have been waiting on August for a very, very long time to seize control of an enormously chaotic situation, whether it's your love life or kids or a divorce, whatever you're going through. It could be work. We've been waiting for quite some time, kind of looking forward, like August is the time when all of this will make sense. We will feel better. It will be better. And for those people, the one thing that you shouldn't do, and I have to tell myself this as well, is that once you start to finally get your way and you start to finally feel like you're winning and you start to feel the ground firm underneath your feet again and the chaos starts to subside and you start to feel normal, do not grab more than you should. Do not be obnoxious. Do not push it. Do not try to get more. You know exactly what I mean. And mainly, Gemini, I'm talking to you and you already know that, but that's fine. I don't need to even call you out of your name like that. It's just that please don't do it, because you're gonna start to get all these things that you want. And the worst thing that you could possibly do is try to get more than you should. If anything, you know what you should do? If somebody tries to oppose you after you start to get everything that you want in August and things start to line up and you're like, oh, this is a much better solution than what I even thought was going to happen. As soon as all that stuff starts to happen, if there's anyone left who's still pulling on you, anyone else who's still creating this issue with you or causing this bad feeling within you, they're creating these power struggles still, because there's a lot of power struggles in Leo season. If you have someone that's not going with this great flow where you're getting everything you want and they're really getting in your business, the best thing you can do in that power struggle is let go of your end of the rope. All right, man, okay, you win. What do you want to do? I don't want to do this with you. This is a very normal thing in New York. When people get into stupid power struggles over nothing, there's always one person who's like, I'm not trying to do this with you. I know exactly what you're looking for right now, and I'm not fucking doing this with you because this is dumb. Take that approach. Trust me. Save a life. It might be your own. Okay. Because they're not friendly. These power grabs are not friendly. They are not advised. They can turn violent. They can turn gory. Again, it's Leo season. Don't, it can get mean. It can get mean. So just watch it. Now, there is a better way to do things. Struggling and striving is not going to help. Communicating, talking to people who you know, making friends, networking, getting to know who they know, figuring out who has a connect to what, where, that will help a lot. Leo season is the perfect time to go out. It's the perfect time to go meet people. It's the perfect time to get dressed up. It's the perfect time to do a little something to yourself so you feel a little oh, hi, it's Leo season, and people respond to that. People respond to you in Leo season. If you do these things, the way they respond to Leos, which is very, very positively. Okay? So, it is a time where, stressing about a situation will definitely make it worse. But actually going out and being like, if I meet enough people, I can somehow figure my way out of this, will really work. Really work well. So try it. And speaking of this and of networking and using your communication to make every door open for you, Mercury moves into Virgo on August 4th, and it will be there until the 25th. Now, this creates a grand Earth trine because we have Taurus that has a north node, Mars, Uranus. Yo, I even have the thing on, so why are you like, it's on do not disturb? I don't understand. So there's a grand Earth trine, Taurus, North Node, Mars, Uranus, and then in Capricorn you have Pluto. So what does this do for us? This is a time where if you work, you can make the money. If you think you're going to make the money off of some passive income, you might, but chances are that might slow down somehow and you're like, oh, I should have just, done that one thing. So there's that. There's also this strange sort of, let's say, accumulated luck. Like you may have been thinking for the past 6 months or so, like, I'm usually luckier than this. What's going on? Why haven't I, things are a little bit easier for me than this usually. So you'll feel this rush of luck, like things that you definitely were like, that shouldn't have gone that way. That usually doesn't go that way for me. And then those things from the past are getting rectified and you're like, okay, yeah, it does feel like my luck is coming back to me. And like things are turning around. Like things are becoming profitable again in general. Not to say there isn't this tension, especially politically. We will have this, Uranus North Node is going to do what it does. And then these fixed T-squares don't help. And then on top of that, you have this grand Earth trine that's like, if you put work into it, I'll make it expand. So everybody knows that. Anybody can do that. Any side can do that. So it's up to you to do your part. So buckle down, make some money for the winter, and redouble your efforts to go even harder. That's what I have written down here. It's a very lucky transit. So if you curb your appetite and show some restraint, you can actually put together quite a lot of money right now. And then if you refrain from spending it out of insecurity, you could look forward to an immensely, immensely fun winter without any money stress. And I know that's kind of like a bummer to say in Leo season, and I know you just want to go out and it's summer and everything, but it really is a great time because it's a time when money attracts money. So the more money you have, the more money will come and stick to it, if you know what I mean. Liquid is best right now. So curb your appetite, show a little restraint, as I have written down here. Your communication gets very clear, and that makes everything easier. And that's what I mean about if you're in a situation where you really can't find your way out, really you need to lean back into this Mercury and Virgo energy, which is, it's straight to the point, but it's friendly. It's usually very healing. Of course, it's critical, but that's usually when Virgos are upset themselves. When they're chilling and they feel like they can communicate well, they're very helpful and they're insightful, and you can get a lot out of this transit just for your financial life if you feel like it's not going the way you want it to. But also in other aspects of your life where you just may not feel like you can ever find the words. Virgos can find the words, and Mercury and Virgo will supply you with not just the words, but the right way to say them. Being gentle and kind of quiet and not really making such a big deal out of it is such a part of their charm. They can say really big things to you in such a normal, casual way that it's easy to digest. Now, if you are dealing with Virgos, it's the same. If you make your communication as non-confrontational as possible, you will get a better response. So keep that in mind for that transit. Excuse me. As of the 20th, Mars moves into Gemini and the classic Gemini-Virgo battle begins. Now, if you don't have any Gemini-Virgo experience, if you don't have a friend who is in a Gemini-Virgo couple, if you've never heard my podcast, if you just in general have never heard about the Gemini-Virgo vitriol that exists, you have an excellent seat to watch it play out after the 20th. And if you are a Gemini or a Virgo and you have the opposing sign in your life somehow, get ready for that battle, because that's going to be fun too. And it plays out from the 20th all the way until the end of the month. So what is that battle, you may ask? Oh, it's usually punctuated by moments of misunderstanding and distrust, tension, an unsettled mind, an unsettled body. Usually it's two really hot people who drive each other insane and really shouldn't be in a relationship but can't stop fighting and can't stop fucking. Are you guys ready for that? Nice. So if you've been waiting for a time of chaos in which you could take a risk and nobody would notice, that's legitimately what I have written out. This is it. Because the chaos that the mutables are going to bring, just understand what's going to happen. For a little bit there, you're going to have Mars in Gemini and Mercury in Virgo. Have you ever seen an angry Gemini verbally undress a Virgo who turns around and in one sentence decimates the Gemini? It's this type of shit. This is what's going to be happening between people. So just prepare yourself. It's so chaotic. It's like walking down the street and there are like several buildings where like, what happened? Like, how did this happen so quickly? So if there is something that you really want to do and you just want no one to notice, like you can just slip away and do something crazy, this from the 20th of August until the end of August is the perfect time to do it. Nobody will notice because everybody's life will be going kaboom. In the best way, I don't want to scare you. Okay. The stage is open. And you can do whatever you want. Nobody will judge you. But many, many, many may clap. Interesting. So, in this time of chaos, which is, you have to admit, kind of the energy that Gemini, Virgo live in, Sag as well, Pisces as well, the mutables in general. Out of that chaos comes this crazy risk-taking, creativity, boldness, this sort of brazen sexuality, this way with words that's so dreamy and witty and sharp and insightful and concise in so many ways. There's so much skill and so much chaos and so much wildness that when it comes together, it can create really sublime moments of art and creativity that can change you. You know, so you have access to that at the end of August, regardless of your sign. You can tap into that chaotic, dreamy, direct, honest, really smart world where so much art is possible, so much creativity is open to you. So don't get lost in the chaos. You know, don't just kind of like watch the drama and eat the popcorn. Get out there on that crazy stage with the rest of us and do a little dance. Sing a little song, make a little love, you know, get down tonight. All right. You might be enamored with something and then let it go just as quickly. Yeah, because that's what you call the beginning of Virgo season. Let's not forget that the end of this month, of August 2022 is still going to be Virgo season. And as soon on the 23rd, when the sun moves into Virgo, as soon as the sun moves into Virgo, we're going to start, on the Virgo bullshit. We're going to like something super intensely. We're going to be like, oh my God, this is it. I just know it. This is it. This is what we're doing. I just know it. This is it. And then, a couple of months later, it's going to be like to your friends, like, why didn't you stop me when I said this is it? Why didn't you stop me? You knew that wasn't it. Why didn't you stop me? So just remember that I'm saying it. When a couple of weeks from now, do me this favor. A couple of weeks from now, come back and watch this. Because a couple of weeks from now, you're going to be like, this is it. This is it. This is it. Just forward it to this part and just be like, oh, remember when Umber was like, this is it? This ain't it. That's not it. It's not it by a lot. It's the beginning of Virgo season. You have to understand the season to understand why you'll be thinking that way. Virgos get this rush of recognition in someone, and they realize how complex and nuanced and deep any human can be, and they can just fall into that depth regardless of who the person is or what they look like, or they're just these naturally really curious kind of connoisseurs of the human condition and of human behavior. They're just really smart. They want a lot of data to crunch, but it's not really cold like that. They're really interested. But the downside of that is that sometimes when you plumb the depths, so to speak, you do get to a point where you realize that maybe your initial enthusiasm was misplaced, and perhaps this well isn't as deep as you thought it was going to be. And now you've got to somehow back out of a situation in which you've poured so much enthusiasm that now it seems really, really strange for you to disappear. I'm telling you, as soon as the sun moves into Virgo, we start with the Virgo bullshit. So, you might be enamored with something really quickly, and then just as quickly you're like, nah, forget it. I didn't mean that. And Mercury ends August in Libra, which is a relief. Well, Mercury is exalted in Virgo, so it's great, but Mercury in Libra brings us this cutting off of dead ends and tying up of loose ends, and we love it and we need it and we wait for it, and when we finally get there, we have this feeling of relief like only Libra can do. Libra brings this kind of adult, I'm going to get it done and you're going to sit here and wait for me to do it the way it should be done, and you should even be watching me do it because you never do it right. So you've spent the better part of a year trying to get all these loose ends together, and there's a couple of deadlines that are really looming, and maybe they've been killing you inside because you're like, fuck, am I ever going to get this I'm not going to make this deadline. That's it. I just know I won't. And you will. And you definitely will. Inshallah, you will. But it will be done the way Libra does things. It will be done right. It may not be done right away, but it will be done right, and it will be done in a way that provides for the lateness of it. And although there are a few things that you definitely didn't think would work out, somehow it seems as if miraculously things just bend in your favor. And you may feel this on many levels in Leo season, which makes it difficult to then be magnanimous when you start to see the things that you have to change. Or if you didn't get in front of it, all these chaotic changes start to happen. It can cause a lot of dissonance because on one hand, things are going so much your way. And on the other hand, why are these big things that you really need to be solid, why are they falling apart? So enjoy yourself, but keep your eyes open, and anything that you can, like I said, anything that you can be honest with yourself about and have that tough conversation and be like, why, what do I do? That's incredibly stubborn. Like, I know one of the ways that I'm very stubborn is that I will selfishly hold on to the idea of someone so tight that I kind of keep them in my life or in my perhaps, you know, even against their will. I don't know. And it's an aspect of me that I, of course, find very uncomfortable to confront and would much rather not ever have to look at, because then I don't have to do anything about it, and I would much rather just keep things as they are. But I also know that these, you know, really intense Aries placements that I have, Mars, Venus, South Node, I always know just slightly before. And I knew, you know, that's something that I had to let go of. And it's, I wouldn't say it's a defining characteristic of my personality, but it's up there. And it's very difficult to confront, and even more difficult to let go of the idea of it. And then even more difficult than that to actually do it. And, you know, make promises that I can't break. Now, I'm not saying that that's an easy process, but I'm sure it's a lot easier when you're at the helm than it is when Uranus and North Node, you know, get to partying together and deciding how they're going to burn it all down. So do what you can. Be as honest as you can. Be as strict with yourself as you can. And where you find yourself being rigid or intractable, really think about why you're being that way. If someone comes into your life and starts asking for everything and anything, and they expect you to do everything for them, it's a great indication of, you know, the universe testing you. How solid are these new boundaries? Have we learned anything? It's a constant test. So, take your time with it, but I would suggest you not be tempted by the things that you know are nonsense and temporal and don't really mean anything. Stick to those things in Leo season that you know are very real, like your connections and your ties to others, the things that Leos value. That feeling, that connection that exists between people, that feeling that you bring to a place or to a group of friends, that feeling that you bring to a project, that life that you inject into everything you do if you choose to do so. I think often the thing that goes the most uncredited about Leos is that people assume that that sunshine and all that energy that you bring is just something you can't help. And although I love the idea of that, it does take away so very much from people who are putting in a lot of effort and a lot of energy. It's a conscious thing. Puts it in a whole new light, gives it a whole new respect, I would hope. So, you get a little taste of all of that, and aren't you just so lucky for it? Aren't we all? It's Leo season. The world is burning, but it is beautiful nonetheless. And so are you. And so are we all. I love you. All signs coming up next. It'll be on Patreon first.